Folks, I cannot tell you how much I hate this time of the year when we start to see headlines of the Buffalo Bills betting favorites to land this vet wide receiver, this young wide receiver from X team. And the latest rumor just so happens to be that the Buffalo Bills are quote unquote betting favorites to land wide receiver from the Minnesota Vikings, Jordan Addison. Right now, granted, there is no idea what the hell that was. So I think it was my dog real fast. It's that or somebody broke into my house and y'all are about to witness me be murdered on a live stream. I'm just kidding. It was my dog. Have no fear. But I wanted to unpack this today because, first off, I think it is absolutely crazy. I do not believe that it has any weight to it whatsoever. I could see where some of these rumors are being spun because the Buffalo Bills in the past, even dating back into 2020 when we ended up making the move for Stephon Diggs, rather than addressing a wide receiver at the draft, we ended up bringing in a vet or bringing in a player that had a little bit of experience. But in case any of you guys were actually wondering for a source, here we are. Quote unquote, the Buffalo Bills are the favorites to trade for standout wide receiver Jordan Addison if the Minnesota Vikings decide to trade for him, right? A 2023 first round pick. He's 23 years old, 875 plus receiving yards, and 19 total touchdowns in the last couple of seasons. Now, here's my thought process on this, and then shout out to Zach Sheldon, who is from Trainwreck Sports. He absolutely painted this perfectly. He says, oh, the Bills are a favorite to acquire Jordan Addison. I am so excited. And he posted these 4 pictures. Number 1, the Buffalo Bills are favorites to trade for superstar DK Metcalf. The Buffalo Bills are favorites to land J.J. Watt. The Buffalo Bills are betting favorites to sign DeAndre Hopkins. The Buffalo Bills are betting favorites to land Davante Adams. We hear this each and every single year, guys. Each and every single year. And shout out Zach Sheldon for making me laugh live on air. Now, I think if the Buffalo Bills were to go this particular route, this would go completely against what this team's DNA and identity has been for the past couple of years. And might I say that this identity was quite frankly the recipe for success. And the recipe for success, folks, was the Buffalo Bills taking a step back, looking at the current roster and saying, you know what? We need to get rid of some of these older players, these expensive players, and we need to build from within. You look all over the NFL, several success stories, more than we can count, of teams being able to find young, cheap contracts and get high production out of each and every single one of these prospects. Now, Jordan Addison, for example, guys, he indeed would be a younger guy. He was drafted in the 2023 draft, right? And his production is certainly there. However, do remember that he did take to social media not too long ago. I believe it was sometime last year where he was saying free 8 or whatever number he ultimately ends up holding at this point. He wanted more production. He is currently entering his 3rd year on his deal. $1.5 million base salary, signing bonus 1.7. His cap hit would be about $3.7 million if, of course, the Buffalo Bills wanted to entertain something like this, right? So financially, it certainly does make sense. And there is a 5th-year option attached to this guy at 2027, but you know for damn sure, once we ultimately end up getting to the conclusion of the 2025 NFL season, we are more than likely, or he is more than likely, going to want to come to the table to further negotiate on top of this. Now, 3rd-year rookie, if Minnesota wants to walk away from him, which honestly there is little to no implication at all for this team. They already have Justin Jefferson. They could do exactly what they did, trade us a wide receiver and then draft the best wide receiver in the entire NFL draft, or the best wide receiver in the NFL within the next 5 or 6 years. That, of course, is a Justin Jefferson joke. But as you can see, a pre-June 1st trade for these guys, if, for example, they wanted to move him, hardly anything that you would need to, or hardly anything that I believe the front office would lose sleep over. So these are those figures. But again, I'm just not particularly seeing why this would be a good idea for the Buffalo Bills. Sure, would he be cheap? Absolutely. Like $3 million cap hit. Like we could certainly afford that, right? But there are so many opportunities that we could hit on the draft. And even if, for example, we don't walk away with one of our favorite wide receivers from this incoming draft class, let's look at the DNA that allowed us to be successful last year offensively. And I'm not trying to say, oh, yeah, I refuse to get better. I refuse to go out and get some of these big names. We got to think about it. We were the most productive offense in franchise history last year with Khalil Shakir as our number one. And folks, I understand it's a tough pill to swallow, but times are changing. Slot receivers are wide receiver ones in nowadays NFL. So we can list off several examples, Khalil Shakir being one of them, indeed. Had Keon Coleman, who many are disappointed he didn't live up to hype or he didn't live up to expectations. You had Curtis Samuel. You had Mac Hollins and his 300 yards receiving. We were able to accomplish quite a bit from that lineup of wide receivers. So rather than us going out and getting a player that has, number one, already started presenting some sort of red flags. He was on social media complaining about his lack of utilization midway through the season last year, if I remember correctly. It's not worth it. Like, I am very big right now on grabbing a Jalen Royals. I am very big on grabbing a Kyle Williams. I'm fine with a Dante Thornton out of Tennessee, if perhaps. But I think that this betting favorites thing is nothing but a story that was based off of a speculative article. And safe to say that anytime there is a big name free agent or a big name player on the trade block, you best believe that there are going to be the Buffalo Bills are betting favorites to land this prospect headlines. It's just how it is. We should all be used to it. In fact, I think I might even go as far as saying and starting to train myself at this point that if I ever see a headline like that again, I know for damn sure it is not going to happen, as pointed out, of course, by our good friend Zach. How many of these streams do we have to do before we realize it's nothing but off-season? We are currently looking for clicks, and we are currently looking for things to talk about during this off-season report. But, folks, that's my soapbox. And for anyone that's just joining, my name is Dan Mitchell. Thank you for coming in and talking a little ball with me this afternoon. This is the point of the episode, folks, where I transition over to my live chat audience. All right. So as many of you know, I go live twice a day, Monday through Friday, discussing all the topics surrounding the Buffalo Bills, some topics surrounding the NFL in general. And I love being able to see exactly what the people in my live chat have to say about said topic. I say that for everybody that is currently listening on Spotify and or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. If, for example, you want to be a part of this segment, certainly consider going to find me on YouTube. The link to my YouTube channel should be in the description of this podcast, and you can make it a point to join. And when you subscribe, just make sure you turn on those bell notifications so you're notified anytime that I go live. I like to pride myself at being the first content creator to be live during every single breaking news tidbit that comes out on the internet. We have MNP Trades has come in. Welcome to the show, man. I appreciate that. He says he is a perfect number one wide receiver on the Buffalo Bills roster. Now, listen, he's certainly talented. And so far, we have looked at his contract specifics. He was drafted in the first round in 2023. His cap hit is sitting at around $3.7 million. Base salary is very modest. Signing proration has already been taken care of. So it wouldn't be a massive ask for us. And I'm battling with how much would this player cost? Would this cost a first-round pick for the Buffalo Bills? Would this cost a fourth round for the Buffalo Bills, perhaps, or a second round, one of our seconds? still a lot left to be answered. And I'm almost curious if Jordan Addison is going to be on the trade block at all. I think that if we look at players that are likely to be on the move, I feel like Kirk Cousins is almost a home run pick there. And so I think he will be a draft day trade. I think Tyreek Hill is going to be a draft day trade. No Bills Mafia. I do not see us going after Tyreek Hill either. But Addison is different. I wish that some of our Vikings fans that come in here on a regular basis would be able to rock this out. Now, Max, thank you so much. Guys, if you are asking a question, just so I could easily decipher between statements and questions, please begin each and every single entry with a Q dash so I know how to get this going. Thank you, guys. Oh, man, I am so happy that we have established this culture in this live chat already. Max Unger has come in and says, what do you think of Ty Broden as a late round prospect? Max, I'm not going to lie to you. While I have had a lot of time, I think once you start getting to the 6th and or the 7th round and or the 5th round, outside of the upper echelon targets within position groups of need, I am largely unfamiliar. I am unfamiliar on Ty Broden. I would love to learn more. Please let me know your thoughts on him, because I look at who I want the Buffalo Bills to draft, and I have a big board. And a lot of the big board is predicted based off of where I believe the Buffalo Bills are going to be drafting said position. So a defensive tackle, a CB2, and a wide receiver, I am very well versed on the first 4 rounds of all of those position groups. And for example, I also love the safety position for the Buffalo Bills, but I know that we're not walking away with Emin Wari. I know that we are not walking away with Malachi Starks. So all of my thoughts and all of my prospects from the safety position, I'm a hell of a lot more well-versed from the 4th round on. It all depends on the specific position of where we are discussing. All right, we have Bill 716 has come in. Who in the draft is better than Jordan Addison right now, and why wouldn't you want to solidify Josh Allen's receiving core? To me, what we did this past season doesn't matter to me for this season. So a couple of different reasons, right? I do think that Brandon Beane went out of character for making an irresponsible move with walking away from Stephon Diggs. I understand that you were supposed to, because it was very clear he didn't want to be there. It was not good for the locker room. But he has typically been a GM that always puts the cap first. And I kind of want you to look at what we have done this previous offseason, and we're all celebrating, right? Because somehow, once again, Beane has proven that he can extend homegrown talent and build from the ground up. But I think it's also something that we need to look forward to. It's something that I think that we can predict some of Brandon Beane's behavior a couple of years down the road. We have a lot of these deals right now, guys, that we just ended up extending. We push money down as far as an accounting perspective. And I think we look at Jordan Addison and we're just like, hey, you know what? Yes, we could bring him in, but number one, we were quite literally the number 1 scoring offense in the NFL last year, once you include playoffs. So why would I want to bring in a wide receiver like Jordan Addison, who more than likely next offseason is going to be demanding a bag that would be within the top 5, top 6 highest paid wide receivers in the NFL? It just doesn't make sense from a DNA perspective. And I'm fine with resorting to the NFL draft. I really think that people are not putting a lot of consideration in how good and how much of a ceiling Josh Palmer has. Like, he has a very high ceiling. Don't sleep on the production that Khalil Shakir regularly puts out on the field. I think that all we need, once again, is just a player that can go out there and that could dominate those vertical routes. That could be our go route guy. That can just be a speedster. And then hopefully we'll be able to develop that player into a more fine-tuned wide receiver as the years go on. But right now, we just need somebody that's a speedster on the outside and has somewhat relatively good hands. I don't think that we should bring this player in just because he's cheap now. I think that we should exclusively just look forward to the NFL draft by itself. And plus, how many holes do we have on this defense? And I'm not even talking about holes where, oh, yeah, like we need some depth here and there. We need day one contributors here, folks, especially on the defense. We need a day one contributor on the interior defensive line. We need a day one contributor as a CB2. I'd even argue that we need a day one contributor at the free safety position as well. All three of those guys, I think that those are high priority of hitting on. I don't want to walk away from one of our top 3 picks in the first 2 rounds because that's largely where I think we can find those players. I think as far as priorities are concerned, for me, defensive tackle, CB2, free safety, then wide receiver, then linebacker. Maybe you could squeeze edge rusher in there as well. Maybe. But do also remember that we have a whole other draft class that we get to salivate over a little bit in 2026 as well. So a statement. Ty Broden, the 6'7" wide receiver who recorded the 4.2 at the Oklahoma Pro Day, currently projected as a 6th and or a 7th or even undrafted. Just a super intriguing guy. I'm going to have to look at some of these projected undrafted free agents, man. So I'll tell you what, Max, as far as speedsters who I really, really like in the draft, I've been saying these names ad nauseum. I do apologize for anybody that continuously hears these over and over again. Love Jalen Royals. Love Kyle Williams. Love Deontay Thornton as well. I did hear that Buffalo has also had a meeting with Isaac Tesla as well, who came out of Arkansas. And then also another Arkansas wide receiver that has a lot of upside, but his production necessarily wasn't all there. Chat, certainly let me know which player that was. The name is currently escaping me. But I will have to check out Ty Broden, man. That and Jalen Lane. He is also a late-round target that I'm familiar with. We have Khalil Khan has come in with a question. And Khalil, thank you so much for rocking with me this afternoon, man. Question, if Josh is the force multiplier on offense, who can the draft supply as a force multiplier on defense? Thank you, Dan. So I'll tell you what, man. Listen, I think when it comes into the defensive side of the football, there is only one position group, well, 2 specifically, that can have a force multiplying effect, that can give a quarterback-esque type impact to the game, and that is hands down a defensive lineman, an edge rusher and or an interior defensive lineman. And typically, it's a 3-tech defensive lineman, and it is an edge rusher here. So when I say that I really want Kenneth Grant, it's not because I think that he is going to go out of his comfort zone and become a true pass rushing interior defensive tackle. No, not at all. What I want Grant to be, and or a Tyleik Williams and or a Darius Alexander, is a guy that opens up our current 3-tech defensive tackle, and that is Ed Oliver. A guy that also opens up our recently extended edge rusher, Gregory Rousseau. A guy that opens up Joey Bosa, say that he can decide to give us a couple of healthy games and a full season for the first time in what appears to be forever. Grant is that guy that opens up everybody. Immediately improves your defensive line. In fact, I will go as far as saying that out of any elite pass rush you have seen in the NFL ever, they had an elite 1-tech defensive tackle. Somebody who does not show up on the snap sheet. Someone that doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but you damn well know that he is eating double teams and providing so many different lanes for everybody else to eat. So a true 1-tech, I think, would cause a ripple effect and create those force multipliers. And then a few edge rushers are interesting. So I like Ezeruku from Boston College. He is crazy, but I have been seeing him mocked significantly high. And so I do like Landon Jackson too. He's more of like a 2nd-round talent. I do like Femi. And so the Oladejo as well from Cal. So I think that those would be wonderful scheme fits as well, but that is an entire different conversation. We have Drew has come in with a statement. Jaden Higgins, the linebacker, Jay Higgins, the linebacker from Iowa, is super underrated in draft prospect, all because of his 40 time. I'm going to have to take a look. And then we have Who Dat Fam has come in and said Armstrong. Armstrong, yes, indeed. He has been on the radars of quite a few draft analysts. His production in Arkansas was pretty low. I'm going to have to put a little bit more research into it. But from what I understand, he's been getting quite a few top 30 visits. So there's got to be something here. Question from J-Po is coming. What's up, J-Po? Hope all is well, man. Shane Dolak, another homegrown UB linebacker. Think Andreessen 2.0. Late round linebacker edition. Well, it was reported that he is going to be at Buffalo's Pro Day, the in-house Buffalo Bills Pro Day. I'm very excited to unpack. He was a star over at UB, and this would not be the last time or the first time where the Buffalo Bills ended up targeting and bringing in some homegrown talent. So many different occasions where we have brought in some UB players on this team. Perhaps, man. But then again, like when it comes into linebacker, here's my thing. Yes, I know that it's technically a need for us because Matt Milano had a restructured contract. This is now his final year on the deal. We still have Terrell Bernard as well, who was just extended, and we have Dorian Williams, who is still on his rookie deal as well. So this Buffalo Bills team typically runs formations where you only call for 2 linebackers because if you were to go the 4-3 model, then that means you take Taron Johnson off of the field. And taking Taron Johnson off of the field, who is bar none one of our best defensive players on the roster, doesn't particularly make sense for this team. So I'm not the kind of guy that is wanting to go for a linebacker in the early rounds. I would be okay with a Shane Dolak because I know that we would be able to target him 5th, 6th, 7th, dare I say, undrafted free agent. That's my thoughts when it comes into linebacker. Jake, the Minnesota sports fan, has come in with a statement here. He says, I will say, first off, hi, Dan. As a Vikings fan, Addison is a very good to borderline amazing wide receiver. He's averaging 950 yards and like 6 or 7 touchdowns or so. I want us to keep him, but low-key, he would be a stud. Man, you know what? I did want to ask you this because I do remember some sort of social media campaign he went on somewhat at the beginning of the season, I think. Was he upset about not getting the football? That was something that I was monitoring. I'm not even entirely sure that Minnesota has any desire to move on from this receiver. But then again, it's largely a topic that many of us ignore going into the NFL draft. You always see current players being moved at the deadline. Like think of Hollywood Brown from the Ravens over to the Arizona Cardinals a few years back, right? Like I'm sure we can all remember A.J. Brown being shipped off to the Philadelphia Eagles out of completely nowhere one night during the draft. It is just a matter of time when it happens. Midnight Strikes Back has come in with a $2 donation. Midnight, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. He said, hey, Dan, what's up? I wanted to send some love. Go Bills. Midnight Hood, I appreciate the donation, man, and I appreciate you showing a little bit of love here. Guys, listen, easiest way to show love over here is quite simply just by hitting that thumbs up sign. I go live oftentimes twice a day, Monday through Friday, covering everything and anything Buffalo Bills. That is trending topics such as this. That is also breaking news. I always pride myself at being one of the first people to be live during all breaking news tidbits. So if, for example, you rock with my show and you like this Q&A segment that I do on a regular basis, please consider going on ahead and smashing that like for me. And if you are not subscribed, highly suggest you do that as well. Of course, if you are vibing with said content, and turn on bell notifications so you know exactly when I am live. Same thing goes to all of you that are listening on Spotify and or Apple Podcasts. If vibing with this show, please do me a favor and rate and review this bad boy. Rate and review it, baby. I'm bringing the show to the audio world. Bill716 has come in with a question, and he says, how far into the draft would you like to draft a wide receiver? Personally, I would like to draft one no later than the 3rd. And I understand what you were saying about Jordan Addison trade rumors. Yeah, man, for sure. I don't necessarily think that we need to be looking at players and saying, hey, you know what? Like, we only have scheme fits on this team in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. I don't think that that's the case, especially with Joe Brady here. Because, right as I have said often, it's in a joking manner, of course, but I do believe this to be true. Joe Brady loves gimmick guys. He likes guys that just provide one strength and brings one strength to the table. Or he at least likes to get the most out of one specific strength per wide receiver, because that's what we had to do last year, because we had a carousel of nobodies. I'm sorry for everybody. I'm sorry if any wide receiver is currently listening right here, but like very few all around pound for pound elite guys on this wide receiver roster. And we were able to put together one of the best shows that Buffalo has seen from an offensive perspective. So what the Bills are looking for, my friend, is speed on the outside, a true X guy. Somebody, when you look at their breakdowns in college, 80% plus of the time, they are lined up on the outside, the X receiving role, and they have a 40-yard dash of anywhere between 4.3 to 4.4. That's likely what we are looking for. A gimmick wide receiver who could exclusively be a go route guy for us, a go route dude that could fit into the system perfectly, because that's what we were missing. Somebody that could regularly win vertically. And I think that you can find a lot of those guys later on in the rounds. Of course, there are some dream picks. Right? And so I think a lot of us know that I am not a big Isaiah Bond guy. And again, I fear that I'm not giving Isaiah Bond a lot of credit, because I think once you dig deep into it, it's more of my hatred for Quinn Ewers and how he makes Texas wide receivers look absolutely horrible because of his piss poor quarterback play. But again, a lot of speedsters in the late round drafts. It's not necessarily a name. It's not necessarily a college. I think that we are looking, quite frankly, at a player that regularly lines up on the outside and runs between a sub 4.3, a sub 4.40. That is precisely what we are looking for. And say that we don't walk away with the apple of my eye prospects, as many of you already know. I'm not going to repeat their names. I'd also be fine with the Dante Thorntons of the world. I'd be fine with the Ty Feltons of the world. We just need a speedster. And somebody with semi-decent hands would be ideal as well. Mafia Madness is coming with a question, and I appreciate that. Dan, would you do James Cook for Jordan Addison? I'm not getting my hopes up for Addison. It won't happen, but would you do that? I feel like it's pretty damn rare to see a straight up player for player type trade, right? Like, we would probably need to also send over some sort of draft compensation. I feel like don't fix what's not broken. So I probably wouldn't do that, because so I think us having James Cook on this roster, folks, and hear me out on this, it almost benefits us that we didn't end up extending him this offseason. Hear me out. It's been reported that he's going to play regardless, right? He's unhappy, but he's going to play. I'm not sure about you guys, but I would be willing, and obviously health considered, and obviously this is assuming he stays healthy all season, we are going to see an even better season than we did last year. Why? Because he is auditioning for his next contract, folks. Whether it is with the Buffalo Bills, whether it is with another NFL organization that plans on giving him a deal that's north of $15 million per year by the time it comes around in 2026, who knows? I think we are about to see the best version of James Cook this year, because he is currently auditioning for his contract for the future. It's a benefit. It is a benefit that this man is going to be playing with that chip on his shoulder. And do you think Luther Burden would be a good pick in the middle to early second round if the Bills were to trade up? So Robert Rose, yeah, dude, listen, I love Luther Burden, right? He's interesting because he started off his collegiate career as an X receiver. He lined up on the outside almost predominantly. and then he switched over to a slot role for the most part, right? So he can play on the outside, but I feel like when you see those sort of splits and he ends up having an insane year the season that he did transition over to the slot role, I'm not sure if Buffalo would see him as a fit, because I feel like that would be a bit too much of a gamble, right? Like that would be a sort of player like, yeah, he has experience on the outside, but why did Missouri switch him over to the slot role? And why did he 4x his production once he was over there, right? Like we pretty much are set, like when it comes in a slot. Like we have Khalil Shakir, who's wildly underrated, just paid him a massive contract. And I also don't see Luther Burden falling out of the first. I do have a feeling that he's probably going to go in the 20s, early 20s, if I am a guy. We have Spin 048. How much does Addison play on the outside versus in the slot? We have Spin. You know what, man? We're going to have to pull up our handy dandy PFF, because that is a wonderful question and something I feel like we all need to understand here. Let's view it in premium stats. I'm pretty curious. We do have a Minnesota Vikings fan in the chat who I believe would be able to answer this, but I have the snaps up here shortly. It appears that he is an X receiver mostly. Last year, 69.3% of the time he was lined up outside, 30% he was out of the slot. So he's an outside receiver predominantly, but does have a bit of experience out in the slot based off of PFF, excuse me. Spidey Munn is coming and saying, I know we don't really need it, but it would be nice to have a big name wide receiver like Collins, St. Brown, a Jefferson on the team. I don't know if I'd say Diggs is on their level, but he was the closest that we had. And you know what? It's great. But like, here's the energy that, so I really want us to think about, right? All three of those players were drafted and are still on that specific team, right? We're all hoping that they become that dude. St. Brown was taken in the 3rd round. I'm curious to see where Nico Collins was taking. Where was he drafted? Let me see. Yeah, he was drafted in the 3rd round as well. So you have a Nico Collins 3rd round, have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who was a 3rd rounder. And then same thing with Jefferson. He was a 1st round, but he fell significantly. Like we saw the Philadelphia Eagles select Jalen Reagor and over him during that draft class, but we shall see. Dan, great take on Cook playing for a contract this year. Trust in being the rate to make the right moves. Brent, absolutely. My guy, I hope all is well. It's been a lot of drama, right? And it sucks because really I'm sure that Brandon Beane wants to walk away and make all of his homegrown guys paid and feel welcome, right? But unfortunately, that's just not how the business works. And I think this is going to give him a bit more motivation because he has a lot to play for this year because he's trying to set himself up. Addison would pair well with Shakir. Dexy Gaming is coming saying, Dan, Keandre Lambert-Smith is a guy I like in the 6th. Most of his snaps are out wide. He's 6'1", 182. He's kind of tall. Dexy Gaming likes him. Let me tell you what, my friend, he had an official visit with the Buffalo Bills not too long ago. I haven't really been doing any streams about tracking visits unless the player really excites me. Like, for example, we had a visit with Tyleik Williams. We also ended up taking Billy Bowman out, who was a safety out of Oklahoma, who we have mentioned several times on this show. So he could potentially be a target too. Listen, we are doing our homework. He ran a 4.3740. Ran a 4.3740, man. Edward is saying, hope so with Cook. I think the Bills want to see him develop this offseason with his pass blocking. We have Josh Rifle has come in from Facebook. What is going on, man? Chenaulton Palmer could become that dude. Man, you know what? I remember when Chenault was about to be drafted, I was an advocate for the Buffalo Bills to draft him. I thought that he was going to be the next coming. I'm not entirely convinced that he's a wide receiver in this NFL. He's a solid kick returner and punt returner. I think that he may very well beat out Cordington right on this roster as well for that role. But hey, listen, I would be happy to be wrong. Levi has said he better not take any pass blocking snaps. He will make too many business decisions. Eric Brown, you're funny. And hi, how are you today? Eric, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. I'm glad that I can make you laugh, brother. We got a statement here from Drew. He's saying, with the amount of picks that we have, we should be trading up with someone like the Vikings or the Falcons who only have 4 picks. Move up for Malachi Starks. He would be a blue chip type player right in this NFL draft. And he'd probably be like one of the latest ones, right? Falcons is an interesting trade partner. But so we look at what Brandon Beane has done in the past and what the trend has been, at least for 2 years in a row. He ended up trading and moving up 2 spots. And what that cost him was a pick swap and a 4th round pick. So us going all the way up to the Falcons, I'm not sure. I think last couple of streams I've done, most realistic in my eyes, based off of teams that could specifically want to do it, would be Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 19. But that's even a far cry. Like you just mentioned, I feel like the Minnesota Vikings might be the most likely trade partner. Most likely from there. And Chenault has actually never returned punts in the NFL. Kick returns, excuse me. Dexy Gaming. Dan, the closer it gets to the draft, the more players I fall in love with. It's going to be hard seeing these guys not go to the Buffalo Bills. It happens like each and every single time, man. You can look at some tweets from the past in past draft classes where we have seen a laundry list of players that we had top 30 visits with, right? So one of which, when I was actually trying to find a tracker for each and every single like draft meeting, and I found one in 2023 where we ended up walking away with Osiris Torrance. And that was the only name out of like, I think 15, which were listed on that specific post. So I try not to look too much into all of that, right? Let me see. You said earlier trading for Addison was like a 12-year-old on Madden. Anyway, I've seen something a couple of days ago about us looking into trading for Woolen. I wanted LaVisca. He was in college too. Hey, man, listen, you know that I'm all about the jokes. I am all about the jokes right now. Man, this is beautiful. All right. What are your thoughts on giving Osiris Torrance a massive extension this year? He gave up 0 sacks this past year. And if he does the same this year, we might be looking at a right guard at $25 million. He is a quality player, a quality player on this team. We wouldn't be having conversations until next offseason for that, though, right? So far, he's earned it. And so if you have to ask me, but we shall see. Roy Collins is coming with a great question. He says, what is your realistic expectations for Coleman? And do you feel a speed guy opposite of him could help? Yeah, man, for sure. So really how I look at Keon Coleman, Roy, is he's an upgrade from Gabe Davis. Like he's our Gabe Davis replacement. And largely when it comes into the contested catch side of things, that's who I think he is. Like he's that guy that we can trust to go up and get it. And so I do want to see him utilized a bit more in the red zone, but for him to ever take a step and be like our perennial wide receiver number 1, he's going to lead the team in receiving yards and touchdowns. I don't like necessarily think that he will ever be that guy, but I feel like he's a quality wide receiver number 2. He's a solid wide receiver number 3. He just has a very limited like skill set, but luckily what he does do well is something that this team lacked prior to him coming onto this roster. I feel like half of the reason why we were all disappointed in Keon Coleman was just because we all thought that he was a Stephon Diggs replacement, where in my eyes, I say he's a Gabe Davis replacement. And might I say, I think that he is an improvement from what Gabe Davis is. But yeah, we need a speed guy. We do. We need a speed guy, hands down. Live has come in. If we get the Viking spot, who do we go for? Whew, man, you know what? It just depends on how the board falls, right? It's funny, man, because like and I hate this time of the year, dude, because like now we're starting to get to the point where like we have seen every single mock draft, we have seen every single prospect analysis. Give me the draft. Give me the damn draft, folks. Give it to me. Stop making me wait. Say that Kenneth Grant is there. So I'd say grab him. He's number one to me. But say, for example, like Will Johnson has fallen significantly. Corner from Michigan. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but say that it does, sure. But yeah, man. I don't want to say that I'm draft Kenneth Grant or bust, but I'm getting dangerously close. I am getting dangerously close. If not, then so I'd be fine with the Trey Amos too. All right, we have a statement. If we get the Viking spot, we take Eminwari. I know it's spelled wrong. Hey, listen, it is a challenge regardless, man. All right, we have Dexy Gaming saying, Dan, if we get a speed guy to make Keon become a ghost, he will open the downfield a lot more. Watch. I mean, listen, I would be intrigued to see how we can scheme this guy in 110%. We have Drew Lar has come in and said, Addison and Palmer run the same 40 time, and Palmer is ranked higher in separation. Dude, you know what? People just keep on sleeping on our good friend, Jordan Palmer, man. All right, guys. Tell you what, it is my nephew's birthday, and we are going to his birthday party. Outback Steakhouse, brother. Oh, no, it's Longhorn Steakhouse. Anyway, going to my nephew's birthday party. So I'm going to wrap up today's show. Obviously, we've discussed the Jordan Addison possibility. I think that this is nothing but a speculative article, and we're seeing sportsbooks say, oh, yeah, the Buffalo Bills are betting favorites to land this guy. But I think that we have all been trained to a point where anytime you see the Buffalo Bills are betting favorites to land anybody, it doesn't come true. It doesn't come true. So thank you again for tuning in. I do want to remind everybody that I am live. I'd say normally twice a day, Monday through Friday. So say, for example, that you are not already subscribed, highly consider just turning on bell notifications, because I love the portion of my show where I just go directly over to the live chat, ask y'all some Q&As, et cetera, et cetera. And for those of you listening on Spotify and or Apple Podcasts, if you were enjoying the show, please consider leaving a rating and review. Would help me out tremendously. Love each and every single one of you. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you tomorrow morning, same time, same place.